Hello everyone, welcome to Rhinofeed. Today I'm going to review the Corsair M45, which is Corsair's value-oriented mouse. This is about $10 cheaper than their M65, and I'll compare the differences between the two just so you can see whether it's worth it to spend that extra $10 or not. Personally, I don't think it is. So the Corsair M65 gives you an Avago ADNS 9800, which is an 8200 DPI laser sensor. And if you don't know, Avago and Pixart are the same company. So the M45 has the Pixart PMW3310, which is a 5000 DPI optical sensor, when actually it's an infrared sensor, but they've just generalized it and called it optical. Also, the Corsair M65 has an aluminum unibody frame, which will add a little bit more weight. The M45 has a plastic frame, and the M65 includes a dedicated sniper button right where your thumb lies. The M45, however, you can program any key to be a sniper button, so you could do your back button or forward button, which is pretty close by to where the sniper button would be, so that's pretty cool. So now let's just talk about the sensor itself and why I love infrared sensors so much. So for background history, I've used the Logitech MX310 in the past, which was also an Avago ADNS S2020 sensor. It was an 800 CPI sensor, and it was also infrared. And what's so great about infrared is there is no acceleration, at least any noticeable acceleration. Now, you can't use it on textured surfaces necessarily. It won't give you the most accurate tracking. It doesn't deal well with shadows and shimmering objects. But once you get it on a cloth mouse pad, it's just perfect. It feels so natural to use, it's extremely accurate, and the PMW3310 is also a very smooth sensor. So I really like it a lot. I would definitely go for the M45 over the M65 just because of the sensor itself. Another important deciding factor when picking your mouse is the shape of it. So this one is definitely made for claw grip or fingertip grip. Personally, I have a fingertip grip, so it works very well for me. You might be able to get away with using palm grip if you have a very small hand, but it is 4 3/4 in length, 3 inches wide, and 1.5 inches tall. So it's not quite tall enough to create that arch for your palm to rest on. The top of the mouse is covered in the soft rubber-coated finish, which is very comfortable. It's smooth. It does pick up sweat and fingerprints, and it generally looks kind of gross after a while. The left and right sides include a fine sandy texture, which I really like. It hides all that grease and sweat, so it looks great even after a lot of use. It also allows you to grip the mouse easier because your thumb will be resting right in that little wing, and your ring finger and pinky can grip that right side. Also on the left side, you'll find forward and back buttons. I like how thin they are, and I like this indent in between them. On the top, you'll also find the high mass scroll wheel, which is made out of metal, and it has a rubber band in the very middle of it. It is very heavy when you press it down to click, so it's not great for gaming use. I just use it for scrolling in Chrome, in fact. And it also, I think there's a little manufacturing defect. If you press each side slightly, it kind of shifts, and this little light click thing, I don't think it's supposed to do that. It doesn't have a left or right click option on the scroll wheel, so you can only click it down, and it kind of shifts from side to side if you bump it. Your left and right clicks have Omron switches, which are going to be a little bit heavier than Razer switches, whatever switches they use. And also, you have a DPI selector with 3 different modes. Underneath that, you have the Corsair logo, which is illuminated with red LED, and you can turn that off as well as the LED that is underneath the scroll wheel in the software. But you can't disable the LEDs on the DPI selector. On the bottom, you'll find your polytetrafluoroethylene glide pads, which there are 5 in total, as well as the infrared sensor and your 3 weights for your weight system. So let's go over the weight of the mouse, since we're talking about that. This mouse, with all of the weights and screws in it, it will weigh at 117.9 grams without the cord. And if you take all of the weights and screws out, you're going to find it to be 97.8 grams. So your total weight difference, whether you leave them in or take them out, is going to be 20.1 grams. Now each weight weighs 4.4 grams in my own testing. Corsair says they're actually 4 grams each, but maybe there's some manufacturing differences because they weighed a little bit more than that. Also, I weighed these screws and they were 2.3 grams each, and Corsair said they were 1.5 grams each. So I did calibrate my scale, maybe that's off, but maybe Corsair's scale is off, I'm not sure. On the front left side of the mouse, you'll find that there is a braided cable. It has a red USB connection on the other end, and Corsair, I believe, somewhere I read that it was advertised as a low friction cable. And in use, it works really well. It hasn't really caught many times on the edge of my desk. Alright, let's try to go quickly through this software. So, I found it kind of unintuitive personally, so I'm going to show you how to do macro recording. Now, what I did at first was selected the button that I wanted to macro record on, and then pressed the macro record button, did my typing, and then it did nothing, and then I thought it was broken. But it wasn't. What you have to do is press the macro record button, and then the button after that. And then you can go ahead and type, and then press the macro record button again when you're done. I don't know why it was so complicated just to do that, but that's what happened to me. Also, you have a light switch here for your logo and the LEDs underneath the scroll wheel, but not the LEDs on the DPI selector. You can't change brightness or anything, it's just on or off. And here you have 4 different buttons, and the first one is playback options, and these icons are kind of unclear at first until you start to play with them. So this first one, it's just going to play the macro once with a delay of 50 milliseconds after you hit the key only once. The second one, you can define how many times you want the macro to play. So if I type in 3 here, press it once, it's going to play through my macro 3 times. This next one, it will continually play as long as you hold the button down. Once you release, it'll stop, obviously. And this last one is a play/stop option. So you press it and you release the button, it will still continually play even though your finger is not pressed down. And then you can press it once more to stop it. So that just clears that up pretty quick. The next option is the delay button here. And noticeably, there is no function to record the actual time delay of your macro recording. For instance, you can ignore the delays and have nothing there. And again, you have to press, even after selecting that button, you have to press the macro record button and then the button again. That's just a little thing I don't like. Anyway, so I'll go ahead and type again. Press that. No delays. Pretty quick. So go back here. You also have the default delay, which is user settable, if that's a word. And then random delay time, which I'm not sure why you would want that, but it is there. Advanced options, you have basic commands, some advanced commands. I wish Corsair would just combine these because there's only, 6 advanced commands. So I wish there was just one drop-down list for all of the commands in one big drop-down list, as you cannot have multiple commands one after each other unless you were to manually record a macro with keyboard shortcuts and all that. So you just click the plus button after you've selected the option in the drop-down list. Next you have button options, and these are your default mouse functions. So you can do a left or right click or keystroke of some sort. You know what? I don't know what the keystroke does because, oh, okay. It's just a single key. I see. All right then. Your advanced buttons. This is another feature brought from the M65. The M45 obviously does not have a physical sniper button, so what they've done instead is given you the option to have any button a sniper button. So you can have a back button or forward button and adjust your DPI here. Over in the Manage Performance tab, you can click that and then the sniper button. And now when I hold the back button down, it's going to switch right to the sniper button speed. So it's really cool because you don't miss out on the sniper button option if you happen to be playing FPS games. Next up, manage performance. Obviously, I'm on that tab already. You have your 3 DPI selection modes, and you can go from 50 to 5000 DPI in 50 DPI increments. And you can just type any value right over here. Now I wonder what would happen if you did 1035. It rounds it down. Interesting. You have independent XY DPI and angle snapping, as well as your report rate settings and lift height. Manage profiles. You can have unlimited profiles here. New, delete, import, export, and most importantly, you can save it directly to the onboard memory of the M45. Also, almost forgot, if you right-click on a profile, you can assign it to an application, which is another great feature. Alright, I think that covers software. I hope it didn't take too long. In conclusion, this is my favorite mouse so far. It's replaced my old-time favorite, the Logitech MX310 for the time being, and it just hits all the right marks. It hits the right price point, it hits the right build quality, the sensor is fantastic, and the only little knock I can give it is that the top portion feels a tad greasy after a while. So that's not the end of the world. If you can't deal with the claw grip or fingertip grip style, I'd look out for the SteelSeries Rival. It's also a pretty good mouse, just as long as you can get used to the rubber grips on the sides, and it has the same exact sensor as this mouse, which is my favorite sensor. Alright, so I thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and as always, please rate, comment, and subscribe.